Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe family of companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
New tariffs are hours away from taking effect. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The Trump administration says 25% tariffs on products from Canada and Mexico start tomorrow. KPBS reporter John Carroll visited a local manufacturing company that's bracing for the hikes.
Aluminum and steel are products that high-span precision products in Chula Vista cannot live without. They are the raw materials the employees here use to make products. Between 80 and 100 people are employed at High-Span. These are good-paying manufacturing jobs. Eric Barnes is High-Span's CEO and president.
We manufacture expansion joints, ball joints, really solutions for industrial, commercial applications. This entity is composed of this plant here, as well as we have a maquila down in Tijuana. So we will be directly impacted by the 25% tariff if it's coming back into the United States.
High-Span in Chula Vista is the umbrella company for other manufacturing entities, and that's where even bigger headaches come for Barnes. One of their subsidiaries manufactures parts for cars and trucks.
We are in negotiation currently with those automotive companies to figure out how do we pass on these tariffs, because we as a company cannot bear to just absorb those tariffs.
The looming tariffs also make Ed Pentico's job more difficult. He's the director of sales and product development.
Sometimes these in the short term are very difficult for us as manufacturers because there are many different things to manage at the same time besides our normal day-to-day business. So now we have to set aside some resources to manage these other activities, these other issues that makes us even less competitive.
So unless there are any last-minute changes, we now know the tariffs are coming. But what happens after they go into effect? That's uncertain, and uncertainty is something business leaders try to avoid.
Because when you have stability, business people are then willing to invest. If you don't have stability, you can't make a big outlay into a fixed asset or capital expense that then may become useless. You can't do that.
Barnes says he's done everything he can think of to prepare for this round of tariffs, but this might not be the last shoe to drop. The administration has also promised reciprocal tariffs next month, injecting even more uncertainty into what is now a volatile situation. John Carroll, KPBS News.
A new statewide poll reveals overwhelming support across all political parties for Medi-Cal. That's California's version of Medicaid health insurance for low-income residents. As federal cuts loom, KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says health advocates fear vulnerable populations could be at risk.
For 61-year-old Carol Bush, Medi-Cal is a lifeline. She says it's about survival.
I would probably die because I can't work right now.
Bush lives in a shelter with her dog Winter. She has COPD and is recovering from gallbladder surgery. Bush lives off $1,000 a month she gets from Social Security disability income and relies on Medi-Cal for medication, doctor's visits, and hospital care. But now, she's afraid she could lose it. On February 25th, the House advanced a bill requiring the Energy and Commerce Committee to come up with $880 billion in spending cuts. Policy experts say Medicaid is widely expected to be a primary target.
I've just been hearing a lot of things that he's going to take people's Medi-Cal and that he's going to take people's Social Securities and that he's shutting everything down. There's going to be tons more homeless people.
A new poll shows nearly 3 out of 4 Californians across political party affiliations want to keep Medi-Cal unchanged. The California Healthcare Foundation and the University of Chicago found 2/3 of people polled say they are worried that Medi-Cal recipients won't be able to get the same level of care in the future. In San Diego County, 1 in 4 residents rely on Medi-Cal, including seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income families. Advocates say cuts could have devastating consequences.
Particularly for folks that are experiencing homelessness, Medi-Cal is often the only health care that they can access. And we've seen time and time again what happens, that a lot of people experiencing homelessness seek care in the emergency room, which is the most expensive place to get care.
Medi-Cal also covers almost 300,000 children in San Diego County.
Everything from emergencies to preventive care to just going to the doctor to get those developmental screenings to make sure your baby's growing up right. Those are all critical pieces that Medi-Cal provides families. That peace of mind, that security that comes with having health insurance coverage.
Health policy experts say if most of the spending cuts come from Medicaid, it could mean a 10% drop in federal funding across the state. That could leave over 100,000 people in San Diego County without health care coverage. Bush says she doesn't know what she'll do if the cuts go through.
If I didn't have Medi-Cal, I wouldn't be able to see any doctor.
For now, she's hoping to have health care coverage for upcoming medical care. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
PBS News will provide live coverage of President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress tomorrow night. It will include the president's speech, the Democratic response, and analysis from the PBS News team. You can watch it live here on KPBS starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Well, tonight we're dropping down to the mid-50s. Now, it's going to range from clear to partly cloudy skies, a little bit depending on where you are. I'll give you an idea of what to expect for the rest of the week coming up.
The mayor of Imperial Beach says she hasn't given up on getting federal Superfund designation for the cross-border sewage crisis. Paloma Aguirre tells our news partner 10 News that she is sending a new letter to the Trump administration this week. She says the new EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, has said he is open to giving the request a second look. The process stalled in the final months of the Biden administration.
Everything that the community has been telling us for 2 years is true, and then some. There are additional layers of concern, not just physical, but psychological as well. There's very high levels of depression. There's very high levels of hopelessness because, as you know, South County is a working class community. A lot of people cannot afford to leave even if they wanted to.
Mayor Aguirre says the CDC studied the contaminated area in October. She hopes data collected from that analysis will help strengthen her case. The city of Lemon Grove has seen a huge increase in its homeless population, up by 85% just last year. KPBS reporter Melissa May says Lemon Grove is now getting a big state grant to help with housing.
Rain and hail swept across San Diego County Sunday night.
It was scary in my own house. Our windows were shaking. We could hear the wind blowing through the trees. And I just imagined somebody trying to make it in a tarp on mud in that rain and how cold it was.
That's Lemon Grove Mayor Allison Snow talking about the unsheltered residents in her city, a population that's been growing.
When I first got here in like 2010, there was maybe 30. Since 22, I would say it's exploded threefold. We're now up to about 300 people.
Snow says normally about 150 homeless people live here in encampments along State 94 and North Avenue. Now the city has been awarded more than $8 million in a state grant for rapid rehousing, focusing on this 2-mile area. They're working with the state and Caltrans to access the area. The Regional Task Force on Homelessness will oversee the program.
It allows us to dedicate no less than 85% of that funding purely for outreach, engagement, rental subsidies, intensive care management, landlord engagement, housing retention services, and supports for housing stability.
Snow says the housing for the program already exists in the community.
This is not a community of NIMBYs. This is a community of people who care. A community of people who go, but for the grace go I. This encampment resolution program is not a handout, it's a hand up.
Kohler says the grant money could be issued within the next 90 days. And once the grant is executed, the city and the task force have 2 years to use all the funding. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Spring is typically the busiest time of year to buy and sell a home, but last year home sales fell to the lowest level in almost 3 decades. Buyers are facing high prices and high interest rates. As we head into the spring, experts say there is some good news for buyers. Jen Sullivan explains why.
If you're in the market to buy a home, it's been a slow start to 2025. Sales dipped 4.9% in January, with roughly 4 million homes being sold in the U.S., according to the National Association of Realtors. And experts say the lag in sales is a combination of high sticker prices and high interest rates.
This higher mortgage rate is really crimping potential home buyers' finances.
As of last week, a 30-year fixed mortgage rate was 6.85%, according to Freddie Mac. And the median home sale price in January was just under $400,000. But as we enter the spring, Lawrence Yoon says there is good news.
We are seeing more inventory choices, and also the supply and demand dynamic suggests more supply means less upward pressure on home prices.
Yoon says more homes typically come on the market in the spring because buyers and sellers want to move before the start of the new school year in the fall, making this time of year the perfect time to buy or sell. The other good news is there's more wiggle room to negotiate because there are now more people selling their homes.
One can negotiate on many aspects, whether it is the actual home prices, or maybe people can request, can you fix the faucet? Can you do the exterior painting?
Yoon says in some areas, homes are still selling above asking price, so keep that in mind when you set a budget. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Firefighters are working against dry and windy conditions as they battle against wildfires in the Carolinas. 163 fires were burning across more than 5,400 acres of South Carolina today. Ivan Rodriguez has the latest and how the weather could impact the firefighting efforts in the coming hours.
Dozens of wildfires flared across South Carolina, prompting people to quickly evacuate their homes.
The top of the trees really lit up with a big fire, and then the black smoke was just pouring right out the top of it and everything. And you could just see the raging fire heading towards the houses.
South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency Sunday to support wildfire efforts across the state. In the coastal vacation town of Myrtle Beach, a low haze during the Monday morning commute. There, residents affected by the Carolina forest fire are allowed to return home as firefighters work to knock down the blaze. Bobby Arledge with North Carolina Emergency Management in Polk County says weather conditions are expected to improve Monday.
With the winds being calmed down, we're able to get lines in, reinforce lines we've already got, do some backburn operations, and protect structures.
In parts of North Carolina, wildfires are threatening areas where many people lost everything after Hurricane Helene.
This area that we're in, where this fire up here was one of the worst areas impacted by Helene. So they're still in the midst of cleaning up. We still have damage to structures. We still have people trying to get their lives back together. Now we have this.
Lighter winds will continue through Tuesday as temperatures reach about 60 degrees and more humid air returns to the region. Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS.
The fires in the Carolinas come less than 6 months since Hurricane Helene devastated portions of several southeast states, a major step in their rebuilding process as a major interstate is now back open after it was severely damaged in the storm. Maribel Gonzalez tells us what this means for their road to recovery.
This is the first time that Interstate 40, which connects North Carolina and Tennessee, is reopening to traffic since Helene ravaged the region back in September. It will be a one-lane stretch in each direction. Officials warn of traffic delays there, but even still, many see this as a step towards restoring their community. This is what Nikki Warren and her brother Walter Harrell's commercial kitchen looked like before Hurricane Helene hit North Carolina. This was afterwards. The space where they produced their blueberry jam destroyed.
We ended up with about 4.5 feet of mud in the kitchen. Somewhere around $70,000 worth of fruit was lost.
Helene's wrath extending to homes, buildings, and roads. In the Tar Heel state alone, officials estimate nearly $60 billion in damages. 106 people died, including some of Nikki's neighbors.
What we lost, what we went through is nothing compared to our neighbors.
We're through the crisis. Now we're in the long term. Okay, how do we get things right?
Now a major step towards that long-term recovery.
NCDOT was prepared for a doggone good storm, but nobody was prepared for something that hasn't happened in 1,000 years.
A stretch of Interstate 40, one of the state's vital highways connecting North Carolina and Tennessee, reopening after it collapsed in storm-related flooding.
We've been closed for months now. So opening it up will provide us a way to transport those goods in and out of North Carolina and allow us to bring some form of tourism back to North Carolina, which will also help local economies.
The rebuilding, a sigh of relief for many like Nikki and Walter. Their business now also back up and running.
Just trying to get us back on some new normalcy.
The North Carolina Department of Transportation is also turning to innovation to offer another type of temporary relief. We're talking about building bridges damaged in the storm with repurposed railroad cars. Officials say these can go up in just a matter of days. Reporting in Los Angeles, I'm Maribel Gonzalez.
Staying active is a critical part of health, both physically and mentally. But when it comes to children, it can be hard to compete with tablets and video games, especially when it's cold outside. Mandy Gaither got some advice to keep kids active.
When the weather gets colder, the body's need for physical activity doesn't take a break. All year long, experts recommend children 3 to 5 stay active throughout the day, and those ages 6 to 17 should be moving for at least 60 minutes every day.
Being active helps our body fight those cells that are going to come in and maybe make us sick. Being active also boosts our mood.
While it's easy to set kids in front of a screen when it's cold outside, limiting time on devices should be something parents do all year long, says Catherine Sherry with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Strong for Life program.
We can read, we can play games, but we also want to take care of our body and we want to get outside.
Getting children outdoors in the winter may be a challenge, so Sherry says to do it as a family and make it fun. For younger kids, play I Spy while going on a walk, or get out and collect nature items to later make a collage. For older kids, race to the next mailbox. If you have to stay inside, Sherry says screens can also be used to promote activity. Check out apps that will get them moving. She says there's also something called competition bingo, where children complete tasks like 20 jumping jacks or making up a 1-minute dance routine in order to win.
Doing things that are fun and enjoyable are going to help our kids want to participate in.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Another key thing to remember is that it's important to stay hydrated. Adults and children are prone to dehydration, no matter the temperature.
Well, after a rainy weekend and start to the week, we get a little bit of a break, but there is another storm on the way. And some of us are going to see a little bit of a roller coaster of temperatures this week. Let's go ahead and dive into what to expect, starting with temperatures for tonight. We're at 48 in Oceanside, warmer in San Diego in the mid-50s there, mid-40s for Borrego Springs, and Mount Laguna, of course, the coldest, coming in at the mid-30s. Tomorrow, there's a lot of sunshine, but some of us are going to be dealing with some clouds as well. 63 in Escondido, 63 in San Diego, 72 over in Borrego Springs, only making it to the 40s for Mount Laguna. Now, I mentioned we do have another storm on the way. Here it is. Wednesday and Thursday, we will get rainfall to Southern California, not just showers, so a little bit more significant rainfall. I know we need it. It has been a very dry, wet season here in San Diego, so very beneficial rainfall. We won't be dealing with much of the travel delays in Southern California. That's going to be more up into the higher elevations where we have kind of that wintry mix and the snow. And that is not the only storm that we have on the way. We're going to see a stormy pattern through next week. So I know maybe not the best for heading out and about, but like I said, we definitely need the rain in San Diego. Let's take a look at your 5-day outlook. First on the coast, 63 for your Tuesday. There's those showers Wednesday and Thursday, but we dry out Friday and we make it back to the mid-60s to kick off the weekend. Further inland, we're at 63 Tuesday. Just like the coast, you have the showers Wednesday and Thursday. We're in the low 60s, then we bounce back to the mid-60s and even the upper 60s by the time we get to Saturday with plenty of sunshine. Go ahead and make those weekend plans outside. In the mountains, Thursday we are not dealing with rain. Instead, we're dealing with the flurries. Higher elevation, cooler temperatures, of course, that's to be expected. We're bouncing from the low 40s to the mid-30s, then back to the low 40s and even up to the 50s by the time we get to Saturday. And then your desert 5-day outlook, we're starting out in the 70s. We cooled down Thursday and have the showers, and then we're back to 78 by the time we get to Saturday.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, European nations work to secure Ukraine's future as their alliance with the U.S. sours. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
This weekend, San Diego officially started its MLS era with the first home game for San Diego FC. It's the latest chapter in a rich soccer history in our border region. And that's the focus of the latest KPBS digital series, Soccer a la Frontera. Here's KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer.
San Diego Soccer's, Cholos Men's and Women's, Wave FC, and now San Diego FC. The region's first Major League Soccer team has arrived.
Something that's been an absence, it's having that pro feel in the city of San Diego, and having that now, it's amazing. We got to go to watch these games.
Soccer in the San Diego-Tijuana region is having its moment.
Really big soccer fans.
Yes, we're a soccer family. We watch soccer all the time. We go to the same. We've been to Snapdragon several times.
In the span of the last 15 years, 4 teams have risen to top-tier professional leagues.
It's for the good of soccer. It's for the good of the community. It's for the good of sports, because we're not going to be the only ones.
And all play within 25 miles of one another, here in San Diego and Tijuana.
I watch a bunch of club teams like from the NWSL, MLS.
So how did we get here? It wasn't by chance. There's a long and rich soccer culture on both sides of the border.
We noticed there was a lot of players that would come out because there was nowhere else to go.
This is Soccer a la Frontera, and we're exploring the origin story of soccer in San Diego and Tijuana.
And now we're providing free pickup 5 days a week all over San Diego.
It's not in the stadiums, but in the streets. And it's a culture that makes our border region special.
Yeah, so we're actually at Chicano Park, which is right outside downtown San Diego, and we're at a Chicano futsal session.
Under the freeways at Barrio Logan's Chicano Park, dozens of people gather to play a street style of soccer called futsal.
Yeah, once in a while I'll do something nice and they'll call me the maestro.
It's a fast-paced and cost-effective way to keep up with the love of the game.
It's not just San Diego, I think it's all over the country here. There's always a pay-for-play model here, and it's really hard to access. Everybody's welcome. We see even like some small kids come out and play. Age group varies between 20, 30, and 40s between that. And it's just all about having fun.
These pickup matches offer a playing surface that utilizes the most of what's available.
You know, it goes back to when we grew up, we didn't have these kind of free pickups. So it's nice to bring it to the community and have everybody enjoy the beautiful game.
Just a stone's throw away, across the border in Tijuana, a similar but unique passion for the game has deep roots.
We've been playing soccer in Mexico a long time ago. I mean, if there's not a soccer ball with a bottle of water, like pushing it and with the feet, and soccer is like part of our life.
On a massive soccer complex called Centro de Iniciación Jolitzcuntles, or CICS, hundreds of youth from across Mexico and parts of San Diego County play the beautiful game.
They're from Tijuana or nearby, from Rosarito, from Playa de Tijuana, even Ensenada. Basically, it's like a soccer school for kids from 3 years to 17.
It's part of the academy soccer system, which feeds into professional teams in the area, the Cholos. Here, if kids aren't playing pickup in the streets or with their school, it's usually in a club or academy environment like this one.
Basically, it's like a soccer school for kids from 3 years to 17.
And like many things in our border region, that passion flows into San Diego.
Well, I grew up in Mexico, so it's a very common part of the culture over there, and then you kind of transmit that to your kids.
Well, I started in rec because I really wanted to play soccer, because I played it a lot in school and I thought it was really fun.
In Mira Mesa, a group of young girls and boys practice on a field for their AYSO United teams, including co-captains Sanaz Tabibi and Mia Osmus.
And I also decided to play soccer because all my family was just playing soccer. My dad, my sister. I really leading toward becoming a really professional soccer player.
They're playing for the club side of one of the largest youth soccer organizations in the United States, and it keeps growing.
The amount that it's blown up over the last, I don't know, 10 years has just been insane. You go everywhere now and people talk about soccer, like they know about soccer now.
Mix that with the shared identity of San Diego and Tijuana, and you have a flavor of soccer that you won't find elsewhere.
Soccer is so popular in so many other countries, so being part of that sort of culture here, it lets you connect with other countries as well, and that's not as obvious or easy with other sports.
Up next on Soccer a la Frontera, Part 2, the early days of professional soccer in our border region.
And this story was produced by Jacob Ayer for the Soccer a la Frontera series. Stay tuned for second episode coming out next week. You can learn more at kpbs.org/soccer a la Frontera. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is talking with Moody's chief economist about the impact of Trump administration tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And KPBS Midday Edition is examining how new penalties for drug and theft crimes under Prop 36 are playing out in San Diego County. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.